Sunday of Survival series. Benjamin Pap Singleton, the father of the Exodus. What you're about to hear is the story of one of the most important migration leaders in American history. Benjamin Pap Singleton didn't just escape slavery, he led tens of thousands of formerly enslaved people out of the post-Civil War South to build new lives in Kansas. His movement, known as the Exoduster migration, was one of the first large-scale attempts by Black Americans to achieve true freedom through self-determination. This is Pap Singleton, the man who refused to let his people remain trapped in a new form of bondage.
My name is Benjamin Singleton, but my people came to call me Pap, like a father who looked after his children. I was born in 1809 in the chains of slavery in Nashville, Tennessee. Back then, my world was small, just the cotton fields stretching to nowhere, the overseer's whip cutting through the air, and the prayers we whispered in the darkness that we might see freedom before we died in bondage. I didn't wait on anyone's mercy or kindness. I ran toward freedom like my life depended on it, because it did. I made it north to Detroit in Canada, and I stayed there through the whole Civil War. When the guns finally fell silent and slavery was declared dead, I thought freedom had finally come for my people. But after the war ended, I went back down to Tennessee to see how my folks were doing, and I saw the bitter truth. The iron chains were gone, yes, but the bondage was still choking my people to death. Sharecropping that kept them in debt forever. Ku Klux Klan night riders, with fire in their hands and murder in their hearts. We were free only on paper, still trapped, still dying, just dying slower. So I started thinking dangerous thoughts. What if we left? All of us. Not just a few brave souls running in the night, but whole communities walking out of the South together and into new land, where a Black man could own the dirt under his feet, could build something with his own hands. They called me a fool when I shared my vision. White folks laughed. Even some Black folks said it couldn't be done, said we should stay and fight for our rights where we were. But I'd seen enough cotton fields, enough lynch mobs, enough broken promises to know that staying in the South meant dying slow and painful deaths. In 1877, I led the first brave group west toward the Promised Land. Kansas was freedom in my mind, fertile land for farming, empty towns waiting for building, space for schools where our children could learn without fear. I walked those endless prairies under the big sky and saw no master's mansion, no overseer's whip. I saw freedom stretching all the way to the horizon. Word spread like wildfire through the South. The movement grew from dozens to hundreds to thousands. They called us Exodusters, like Moses leading the Israelites out of bondage in Egypt toward the Promised Land. White folks in the South went into a panic. They saw their cheap labor slipping away, their old order of control crumbling to dust. We built the town of Nicodemus, Kansas, with our own bleeding hands and backs bent with determination. We planted crops in soil that belonged to U.S. We built churches where we could praise God in freedom. We raised children who never had to bow their heads to any master, never had to say yes sir to men who hated them. I was an old man by then, my hair white as cotton, but I knew I was looking at the answer to the question every freedman and freedwoman carried in their hearts. Where do we go now? How do we live free in a country that still wants us enslaved? The South wanted us broken and begging. America wanted us scattered and powerless. But I told my people with fire in my voice, stand together, walk together, work together, and we can build something they can't tear down. We can create our own freedom. Benjamin Pap Singleton. And we did! Thousands upon thousands followed my lead. We proved that Black people didn't need white permission to be free. We just needed the courage to walk away from the places trying to kill us. I'm Pap Singleton, a man who refused to watch my people trapped in slavery's ghost. I led them out of bondage toward the promised land. I showed them that sometimes the only way to survive and thrive is to leave the place that's slowly killing your body and soul. I am still here in every person who refuses to accept injustice as normal, in every community that builds its own power, in every soul brave enough to walk away from oppression toward something better.
Pap Singleton's Exoduster movement brought over 40,000 African Americans to Kansas between 1877 and 1880, creating thriving Black communities and proving that formerly enslaved people could build prosperous lives when given the chance. His vision of self-determination through migration inspired later movements like Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa campaign and continues to influence discussions about Black economic empowerment today. Singleton showed that sometimes true freedom requires the courage to walk away from familiar oppression toward uncertain but hopeful new beginnings. Singleton's courage to seek new beginnings reminds us that we are not prisoners of the past, but architects of the future. Sometimes freedom means having the audacity to walk away from what's familiar toward what's possible. This has been Burden of History. Keep building. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for making us part of your day.